Have you ever wondered what it would take to just reboot an entire continent's economy? Well, today we are diving deep into something called Africa 2036. It's this massive proposed economic blueprint that aims to do exactly that. We're talking about a complete financial overhaul, and it's all built on a foundation of wealth so vast it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. And yeah, this is that foundation. $500 trillion. That's the number at the very heart of this entire plan. According to the documents we're looking at, this is the claimed sovereign asset base that would underwrite the whole transformation. Just let that number sink in for a second. So, the big question is obvious, right? How could a sum like this, if it's even real, be used to completely reshape an entire continent? That's exactly what the Africa 2036 framework sets out to answer. Okay, so first things first, where is all this money supposed to be coming from? Well, the plan says this immense wealth is a private reserve. It's held by a group called the Kingdom Hacienda Filipina, and it's under the authority of the Borsi royal clan. The entire premise here is that these historical assets are now being unlocked and designated specifically for Africa's development. Now let's break that down, because this is where it gets really wild. The framework claims these assets include 400,000 metric tons of physical gold. And get this, it's supposedly held in some of the biggest banks in the world. We're talking the World Bank, UBS, Barclays, HSBC. On top of that, it lists over $12 trillion in liquid reserves. This is the bedrock, the over-collateralized foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. So the next logical question is, who says they can even use these assets? Well, the documents point to this long, pretty complex legal history. It apparently starts with an unbroken sovereign monarchy. It's based on old Spanish land grants, and then it's supposedly reinforced by major historical treaties, like the Treaty of Paris and Versailles, and even a Supreme Court decision. And it all leads to one person, General Absalom F. Borsi Jr., who was named as the sole signatory authority. And here's the kicker. The plan claims these funds have a special legal protection. It says the assets are granted global immunity under something called Security Code 50-20. What does that mean? Well, supposedly it shields them from all taxes, liens, and any outside interference. The idea is to create a completely independent financial base. All right, let's move on. If you have $500 trillion, you can't just stick it in a checking account. You need a manager, a steward, and that role, according to this plan, falls to an institution called the NVC Fund Bank. So, what does that mean? The bank's role isn't to own the money, it's to be a fiduciary steward. Think of it like a trustee. Its only job is to manage these assets for the benefit of somebody else, in this case, for global humanitarian and economic development, with a laser focus on Africa. And here's the legal setup in a nutshell. You've got General Borsi as the grantor. He's the one putting the assets into what's called an irrevocable trust. Then you have Frank Ojigwa Acacia, who represents the NVC Fund Bank, and he's appointed as the trustee. He gets the full legal authority to manage and pledge these assets for that specific purpose. Okay, so you've got the money and you've got the manager. The next question is, how do you actually move it and use it? The plan's answer is pretty radical. You don't use the existing financial system. Nope, you build a completely new one from the ground up. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this comparison. On one side, you have the legacy system we all know. The document calls it debt-based, volatile, and totally reliant on the US dollar. But on the other side, you have their proposed NVCT rail. It's designed to be the exact opposite, fully asset-backed by all that gold, totally stable, independent, and offering frictionless, seamless settlement. The actual engine running on these new rails is called the NVC platform, and it's packed with modern tech. We're talking tokenized project financing, smart contracts to make sure everything is transparent, and it even integrates a currency for the African diaspora called the Lumi. All of this comes together to power a $5 trillion financing platform just for African transformation projects. So what's the end game here? What's the point of all this new tech? Well, the ultimate goal is to create a closed-loop financial system. By building their own ecosystem, the idea is to shield the continent from all the external pressures of the traditional global financial world, interest rates, sanctions, all of it, and achieve true economic sovereignty. So if you're going to build a whole new financial system, you can't use the old rulebook, right? You need new rules, and you need new referees. This next section is all about the new governing bodies they've designed to oversee this whole independent structure. The oversight is basically structured as a triad. You've got AFRA, the African Financial Regulatory Authority. Then there's an African Central Bank for monetary policy. And really interestingly, an African Diaspora Central Bank, designed to integrate capital from all over the world. I think this quote from the document really captures the spirit of what they're going for. It's not just presented as a dry financial plan. They frame it as a historic and cultural merger, linking this claimed legacy of assets with the continent's future, all to reclaim a sovereign identity. It's a powerful idea. Okay, so that's the what and the why. But how is all this supposed to get done? Well, the framework lays out a very clear roadmap, a three-phase transformation that's planned to happen over the next decade or so. So they break it down like this. The first couple of years, 26 to 28, that's the foundation phase. It's all about getting the regulators and those digital payment rails up and running. Then, from 28 to 32, it's the acceleration phase, using the platform to fund massive infrastructure and manufacturing projects. And the final phase, consolidation, is all about integrating the continent's economy and hitting those big GDP targets. And what are the projected results? I mean, they're just staggering. The stated goal is to quadruple the continent's GDP. We're talking about going from roughly $3 trillion today to $12 trillion by 2036. That is a monumental leap. And it's not just about the big GDP numbers. The plan projects a huge social impact, too. Specifically, the creation of 200 million new jobs all across the continent by the time the plan is fully realized. So there you have it. That's the Africa 2036 framework as it's laid out in the documents. It is an incredibly audacious plan built on a colossal claim of hidden wealth, and it proposes entirely new financial and regulatory systems from scratch. So the final question, the one this all leads to, is pretty clear. Is this a credible blueprint for economic sovereignty, or is it a financial fantasy? That's a thought we're going to leave you with.